I'm in the game. I'm in the game. Hello, I'm in the video with my daddy.
All right, so what's going on, guys? I'm just going to give you guys a heads up today. I'm not really feeling all that great, so my voice is not going to probably sound all that great. Probably doesn't any other way, but today we're going to have Ben Builds on. Him and Mad Production Genius kind of collaborate a little bit. So this is the other side of that friendship, right? And Ben does some really cool stuff. We're going to talk about some of the stuff he's been doing, tools, the normal. So let's get into this, and hopefully you guys learn something as long as I do. Bye. What's going on, Ben?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, dude. So what part of the country are you in, dude?
I'm East Coast. I'm in California, Southern California, about 20 minutes from Joe. So right up the street from him, basically.
Wait, East Coast or West Coast?
West Coast.
Oh, I was like, wait, California's not on the East Coast.
No, it's not, yeah.
See, I'm not feeling well. I'm not,
No, yeah, well, West Coast.
No, that's really cool. So do you guys actually get together every so often too, since you're so close?
Yeah, sometimes we'll do modeling runs. We had a couple local hobby stores we like to go to, and one of them is Brookhurst Hobbies. And so every once in a while, I'll say, hey, I'm making a modeling run. And he's like, cool, I'll meet you down there. So we just hang out, talk shop a little bit, and then usually pick up a couple of kits, a couple of paint bottles or whatnot. And then, we go our separate ways. So every once in a while, we do meet up.
No, I mean, it's really cool that, how you guys' channels kind of coexist a little bit. It's really unique.
It is, yeah. I don't know. I don't remember how I came across this channel, but I think you might have made a comment on one of my videos or something. And, as you typically do, you kind of click on their name and go back and check out their stuff, if they have anything posted. And I was like, oh, this guy's got a couple cool things on here. And then I found his Facebook, and he ended up messaging me, and we just started talking. So and we kind of went from there.
No, that's really cool. So I want to talk about your channel for a second.
Sure.
The Christmas thing, 12 sprues of Christmas, I think or 12.
It's well, originally it was 12 sprues of Christmas, and I was like, well, I don't want anyone getting mad at me because it's just Christmas. So I said that's when I changed it to Kit Miss. So it's 12 sprues of Kit Miss.
Okay, no, that's cool. So what brought that? It's a very unique thing, and it's cool to watch.
It's hectic, I'll tell you that. Yeah, well, so I was talking to my girlfriend a while back, like 3 years ago, I think is when I first started it. And she said, I should do something fun for the holidays. It's like, yeah, that'd be really cool to do. So we ended up just kind of hashing out an idea. And she kind of came up with the idea of, well, what if you build like a bunch of models? I was like, yeah, I could do that, but I don't know if I could do it to my usual like 1/48 scale, And so then we came up with, well, what about if it's random? Where I pick up, say, 13, 14 kits over the year, randomly pick up something that's maybe small scale to do quickly. And then just she puts them in an order that I have no control over what she does. She puts them in a random drawing box, and I just go day by day, punch on through, see what I get, and just make the most of it, And so we did it the first year, and I did 1/44 scale kit, so I kept them small. And that was a lot of fun. It was mostly just I made ornaments for my tree because I just bought a little Christmas tree for the bench, and I was like, well, I want to put some ornaments on this. So I was like, you know what? Models, why not? And so then I just threw a bunch of models onto the tree. And then the next year I said, I'm gonna do it again, but I want to up the ante a little bit. So I went 1/72 scale. And again, same type of thing, she just put them in a kit, like in a certain order, just all the kits in my little drawing box. And I just went with it. And then this year I wasn't necessarily going to do it, but I thought, now I got a lot of people asking, hey, are you going to do the 12 sprues? Hey, where's the 12 sprues? So I said, all right, I'll just do it. So again, 1/72 scale, and I just hunkered down and pushed through. So okay. My goal is eventually to get all 12 model kits built in a month. That's my goal. So I don't know. Maybe next year I'll get it done. I came close this year, but family issues popped up, so it delayed me a bit. So, but yeah, that's kind of the whole story. I might up the ante again and go 1/48th, but I don't know. It depends. It depends on what I feel like doing.
So for the idiot in the room, right? What's this 1/72nd? That's the really tiny planes and stuff, right?
It depends on I think on the aircraft. Well, for example, this is one of the ones I didn't actually end up building. I don't know if you can see it very well,
Yeah.
but it's 1/72nd scale, so it's not tiny, but it's not huge either.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's a decent size. I don't know, again, I get the glare on there, but it's a decent size, and it works really well for my display case and for ornaments on my tree. So, and then the really small stuff's like 1/144 scale. That's pretty tiny, and very hard to build for me. The parts are so small.
No, I mean that's really cool. And is that mostly what you build there, or you do all kinds of stuff
For 12 sprues or just on the bench normally?
normally?
I usually build 1/48 scale, to be honest. I will every once in a while pull out something that's like my sci-fi stuff. Like when I do something from Bandai, usually it's 1/72nd scale. Like the Millennium Falcon I was working on last year. I hope to finish this year. That's I think 1/144th. So it just depends on the genre. Most of the World War II stuff is 1/48 scale.
No, I mean it and it's kind of cool on your channel how you separate, like, I mean, you have a bit by bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is that to manage?
In terms of content wise,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's basically on a good month when I'm building something. It's say like I hope to try to release a video. If it's like military based, I'll try to do it on Mondays, and then if it's sci-fi based, I try to do it on Wednesdays. So if I'm doing both the sci-fi kit and a military kit, it can get pretty hectic. It'll basically be a couple hours on the bench when I get home from work. You know, I sneak out here sometimes late at night. Sometimes I'm out here like 9, 10 o'clock. Sometimes when I was doing 12 screws, I was out here till like 1 a.m, you know, really pushing. But then the next day when I get back from work, I'll take all that footage and I'll, you know, start making the video and then posting it as soon as I can. You know, so I just kind of juggle everything so it's all staggered. So I'm always working on something and I'm always trying to do video editing and trying to get the audio right and trying to get all that stuff done. So it takes up a lot of time. It really does.
No, yeah, it's really really cool. I and that's the part that I like about your channel is it's so precise, like what you're doing.
I
Like it
appreciate that.
looks really really good when you're done.
Well, that's the goal, you know. But I mean, even I look back at my stuff and go, oh, why did I do that? You know, what was I thinking there? But I mean, we're all our harshest critics, you know, to be honest. But yeah, I appreciate that. It is kind of just fun to see if I can do it, and I'd like to try new things.
Yeah.
So it's just a journey, you know. It's an adventure. That's the main thing. It's my channel kind of focuses on just have fun with it, you know. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, then why are you doing it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, like, I mean, you don't really do cars, do you?
I've done a few, and I have a couple in the stash. So I would like to. That would be something I'd want to go and do more. I've got, I think, 2 in the stash, maybe 3. But yeah, I typically lean towards the airplanes. Usually World War II and usually Cold War, early Cold War jets is kind of where I find most of my interest.
No, no, that it's really really cool. So what got you into modeling?
Well, that's actually a two-pronged attack. It was my uncle and it was my dad. And basically, my uncle was in the Air Force, and he was avid modeler. He was building a lot of stuff, you know, early Revell, monogram, stuff like that, Lindbergh, back in the 60s and 70s. And when he got out of the Air Force, he was going to move to a different state. And I was just a kid at the time. And he calls me into his office and he's like, "Hey, I want to show you something." And he pulls out all of these like cake boxes, and they're all filled with all of these model kits. And so he's just like, "What do you think of these?" I was like, "Oh, these are really cool." And I didn't know anything about airplanes at the time. And he started kind of teaching me, you know, "Oh, this is an F6F Hellcat. This is an F4U Corsair. This is, you know, Dauntless. This is, you know, P-51 Mustang." And so I kind of took a liking to it. And I mean, as a kid, it's like, oh, these are cool to play with. And he's like, do you want them? And I was like, yeah, I'll take them. So he gave me like, I don't know, like 20 already built kits. And I got to take them home. And I played with them like you wouldn't believe. I was outside dog fighting them in the backyard, And my dad comes in and sees all these model kits. And he's like, oh, wow. Oh, do you want to build one? I was like, you can build them, So he sat me down at the kitchen table and he'd picked up 1/48 scale monogram Stuka J87D. And he just walked me through the entire process. And then after a while, we built a couple of model kits together and he bought me my first snap tight kit. And it was a Messerschmitt 109 G, I think it was one of the old, I think early 80s monogram snaps. So he gave me that and he's like, go to town, build it. So I did. And that just kind of got me hooked, So it's
No, I mean,
kind of
that's
a roundabout way.
cool that your dad got you into the hobby. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, his dad was a Navy. He was a Navy guy. He was a radio operator on the USS Colorado during World War II. And so he was actually, my dad built mostly like ships, PT 109. I remember he built, I think, a Missouri. He built the Arizona model. I think he tried to build, was it the Constitution? I think at one point he tried to build that. He said it didn't go over so well, but he had just kind of more like the naval side of things, mostly ships. And my uncle was all about airplanes. So my uncle gave me the love of my airplane, fascinations, and my dad gave me how to actually kind of think about building. So again, it's kind of a two-pronged attack,
No, I mean that's cool. And it seems like everybody has a different response when it comes to how they got introduced to the hobby. Because
yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He used to build. He doesn't build anymore. He said he just kind of got out of it. But I remember it was his grandfather that got him into woodworking, and then that kind of transitioned into model building. And he was like, yeah, it was just really fun. You just never know. You never know who's going to get you in the hobby. My friends kind of got into it when I started building. I got a couple of my buddies into it. I don't talk too much anymore. So I'm hoping they stuck with it because it's a great hobby, but you never know.
So what's the hobby scene like over by your area? It's pretty, being in California, you never really hear anything out of California except for like certain YouTube channels.
Right. I would say that we used to have a ton of like local hobby stores back in the 80s and 90s. I'm a kid, I'm growing up, and I'd ride my bike over to this place called Frank's Hobbies, just right down the street. And I would just go in there and just in absolute awe over all the just model kit stacks and stacks of them. And then slowly they just started dwindling. And then toy stores stopped carrying models. And now we have, I think, 2 or 3 local hobby stores that are pretty decent in the area, but they're still a bit of a drive. There's Military Hobbies that's about down the way. And then the one that Joe and I go to a lot, which is Brookhurst Hobbies. And that's about a 30-minute drive or so. So more mom and pop stores are starting to go away, which I hate that. But I mean, brick and mortar stores are just disappearing. So there's still a nice contingent of hobby scale guys, here. I don't really belong to any other chapters or anything. I've been kind of meaning to get out and get more social in the hobby, but I just haven't. YouTube's kind of my only social outlet for for model building. But I think it's improving. I think with kids. I think nowadays I see a lot more kids interested in like Bandai stuff, like Gundams and all that. And that was kind of, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, even I got into those. I used to work at an anime store back in the day, and we carried those, so that kind of got me interested in Gundam. So I have a ton of them. I just don't build them much anymore. Kind of gone back to the airplane side of things, but I do have some. But I think those are kind of getting more and more popular. With the Bandai kits and master grades, perfect grades, high grades, all those.
Yeah, I to be honest, I don't really know a lot about them, and in a couple weeks, we're going to have someone on that builds a lot of them. So
nice. No,
I'll have some very unique questions for that guy.
Oh yeah. I'll have to tune in on that one. Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's like the kids, they don't want to, how do I say this? They don't like that plane. You're going to have to do the seams. You're going to have to do the mold lines.
Oh yeah.
And Gundams are a completely different beast too, but they're not as difficult to put together. I guess
Right.
is what I'm kind of going at. Like you could
Yeah.
build the Gundam in a day, really, if you really, really, really wanted to.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Back in the day, I think I used to. I used to build a couple in the day because we do our displays, and we had a little area where we display, the Bandai kits. And I remember I was the only person that actually wanted to build models, and so they gave me a stack of like 5 or 6. It's like I build those up quickly for the display. So I built, I think, like 2 a day. So, so
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
I mean, and then you got like the 3D printed side and all that. Have you gotten into 3D printing at all?
I haven't gotten into it. I purchased a couple of 3D printed items, but I haven't been able to really jump on board with that. And I've been kind of thinking about it. I've been slowly advancing and buying more and more tech. I just got myself one of the Cricut cutter for me making my own masks and things. And I was like, man, I should really get a 3D printer, but I don't know anything about them. So I got to do some research and figure out, what I can afford and what would actually be, a good deal for me. Plus, I don't have any room here in the hobby area. So that might be like a later purchase, but I do want to get into that. That would be super awesome if I could actually print some parts.
No, it definitely adds to the hobby. That's for sure. I would have thought with some of the add-ons and stuff that you do, yeah, I figured you were 3D printing some of that stuff.
Oh no, I have a huge bin of just parts that every time you build a model kit, you have a ton of extra parts left over for the different variants and all that. So I just save them. I just throw them in a big tub, and if I need something, I'll kind of dig through that and I'll find something that works. Because I'm not necessarily 100% into making sure everything is exactly scale perfect and exactly right. I just kind of go with the flow, and whatever feels good and looks good to me, I'll go ahead and do that. And sometimes I'll just like when I was doing the 12 sprues, I lost lost a couple of parts actually through the whole build series, but I actually lost an actuator for, I think it was a canopy for my A10. And so I dug through the parts and I found a landing strut from a 1/72 scale A-wing that I built years ago. So I just cut off the actual foot part of it and used that as kind of the hydraulic lift for the canopy, and it worked. I mean, you can't really see it, but it's something's there at least, instead of it being a big open area.
Well,
So
that's cool.
that's where I get all my scratch built stuff, is that giant bin of parts.
Yeah, I think over the years, especially with Warhammer stuff, you get all kinds of extra little goodies.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I've got 3 or 4 bins full of that stuff now.
Yeah, it can get overwhelming. It can kind of overflow out of the bin. So you got to kind of cull the herd a little bit. But every once in a while, it really helps to have those parts.
All right, so we're going to talk about tools. What is
Cool.
your favorite tool?
Honestly, my favorite tool is actually a set of tools, and that's these guys, my jeweler files. I use these things on every single kit I ever build. Honestly, this is one of the newer sets I bought off of Amazon, but these I got actually from my grandfather. So they're a little bit on the worn side, but they're perfect for plastic. They don't gouge, they don't rip apart, they don't make extra work for myself. They're just rough enough that they'll take down the seams, and they just come in different shapes, different grits, and yeah, I use these things all the time. They're awesome. So I gotta say, favorite tool right there.
Now that's cool. I kind of heard about that last week with White Glove was on, that was one of your favorite tools.
Oh yeah. I know. I mean, he messaged me and he asked about him too, and I didn't actually know the brand, but there was a little bit of a stamp on here, and so I sent him that information. And I think he found some. I want to say he found some on eBay. So I hope he picked them up. I hope they work well for him.
Yeah. It sounds like, yeah, if I remember right, yeah.
Good.
It's been a long week this week. Being sick most of the week, and yeah. No, that's really cool. Did you have any other tools your go-to? Because that's a unique one. That's gotta work on almost everything.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's like I said, I've used it on every kit I've built since I got these. I got these back in I want to say 99, 2000. I think when my grandfather passed, I ended up inheriting these, like a little set of tools, and then so I got these from him. I would say my next favorite tool, X-Acto knife. I don't think I would build many kits if I didn't have an X-Acto knife. and also pin vise. I'd say those. Yeah, top is the hobby files. Next, X-Acto knife. Third, pin vise. If I had to rank them.
So what drill bits do you use in the pin vise?
I got a couple of different sets of drill bits. Most of them are just as whatever size looks good. I just picked off a whole bunch off of Amazon, and I've just been kind of, they break after a while, so I swap them out with another one, and they're usually pretty cheap. And every time, I think when I bought this one, it came with a set of micro drill bits. So it came with, but it's just a bag. So I have no idea the size. It's just a bag of bits. So
Because to be honest, that looks like a beefy friggin' pin vise.
yeah, this one I got a couple of them. I've got this one. I've got my original one, which is a lot smaller, but I tend to poke myself. And then I've got a third one floating around here somewhere. That's kind of in between.
That one looks like you should be able to drill something into a piece of wood or metal, and the other one is for.
I've actually used this one on wood when I built my ATST back a couple months ago, I think, or maybe a year. I feel I lose track of time, but I actually chucked a bigger bit in there and I drilled a pilot hole for my switch using this one. So yeah, it just come in varying sizes and I guess for different either heavy duty, light duty stuff. I should also mention, now that I looked in my drawer, my set of punches. I say that's probably a runner up as well for tools.
Okay, what are you using the punches for?
I've used them for various things. Usually I'll use them to maybe make something like a small disc. Like when I built the Bearcat with Joe at Mad Genius, I noticed that the kit itself didn't have the brake disc on the inner portion of the wheel. And I was like, we got to have the brake disc. So I searched through my punches where I found one that was about the size, and I just punched it out of some styrene. And then I was able to use that, and then I just glued it on and we're good to go. I've also used it for masks. When I make a quick mask for like a nav light or something, I'll find one of the small ones, punch a hole, and they get pretty tiny out, and I'll punch a hole through some tape and then find that and push it on. I did that with just recently with the Tempest, the A10, a couple other kits for 12 sprues, just to make sure I don't paint over the landing lights,
No, that's really cool. A unique thing. So you also do LED stuff, right?
I'm getting into that more and more. Yeah. I'm learning as I'm going. It's kind of trial by fire, I think.
So what's one of the things you learned the hard way?
Resistors. Sometimes they're really important to have. I've ended up burning out some lights before, forgetting that, okay, if you're running a certain wattage, you need to make sure you got a resistor on there, and certain power supply, you'll burn out your LEDs. I actually did that on the ATST. I wanted to test out, because I had some old LEDs and I wanted to test out to see if they worked. So I just had this little 3-volt battery pack. So I just said, just put it on there, and it's fried it. I was like, whoops, should have thought about the resistor. So that's kind of, I'm learning that the hard way. And also the idea of having a single power source to run multiple LED banks, or for whatever, lack of a better term, that's also kind of challenging to me too. So I'm kind of learning as I'm going.
Now, what do you mean? The batteries to the amount of lights, or the lights to the battery?
Well, so all right, let me see if I pull up my my Falcon build here. I haven't touched this one in a while. It's something that I was really cranking on, and then I just kind of lost the mojo on it. But I was working on this Millennium Falcon.
I'm one of them people waiting for you to finish, because it's been looking really cool.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Oh, good. It gives you motivation to finish it. But so I was working on that, and I want to do some LED work on it. So I actually had some of these very tiny SMDs that I was able to run right off of a 3-volt battery pack, which is, I have a ton of 3-volt battery packs. So those worked out fine. No resistors needed, just plug and play basically. But then when I got to the strip around here for the engine in the back of the Falcon, and also I wanted to do a single LED to run some fiber optic through the bottom, for some glowing lights on the bottom of it, I kind of ran into trouble, because I don't know, how exactly to make a single power source to run this bank, run this run the other thing. It's like putting all of the lights onto one battery source. Like, how much power am I going to have to run? Am I going to have to pull any resistors on there? I know there's a bunch of mathematical calculations you can do. There's websites that'll tell you that stuff, but I just haven't gotten into that yet, so it's kind of it's a learning process for me. So what I thought I would do is I wanted to run multiple switches because I want to be able to power on, incrementally. Like there's a cockpit light over here as well, which it's on this side. It's all next to the upper part of the hole. So I put two SMDs in there, and I've got the wire for that. So it's like I've got a lot of stuff I'm trying to run here, and I don't really know exactly how to run so many different LEDs with different ratings and different wattages off of one power source. So that's kind of my biggest hang up, is I don't really know how to create that sort of single power source, multiple switches with multiple different areas to light. I prefer the more simple, just like, battery pack runs this LED, you're good to go. That I can handle. But when you get a lot of complicated, or at least for me, complicated things, that's when I start to slow down a little bit.
So with me, I'm going to take the little bit cheaper route.
Mm-hmm.
On over Christmas, that Walmart has those LED packs that, like, it's a battery and then it has like 20 white or green or blue.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
What I've found out is you can splice different colors on there.
Oh.
Like, you could take the red bulb from this one and put it on that one, and it'll work.
Oh, cool.
All
Okay.
the same resistors. You just got to be careful where you cut, right?
Right. Yeah. I think that might be helpful.
And they're like $2, right?
Yeah.
That's because I'm on the broke modeler society, right? I have to find cheap ways to do stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing I find. Modeling is expensive. So but when I picked up this kit, I think I picked it up for like $40, $50 somewhere online, and I look at it now and it's like almost 100. I was like, whoa, okay, so this is the only one I'll build of this, So it's good to go cheap, and that's why a lot of times, even for thinner, I'll just use isopropyl 70% isopropyl alcohol for, like, Tamiya paint, and for Gunzi. Not Gunzi, it's the aqueous line, so it's their acrylic line. But I'll use that as much as I can, just because it's cheaper. And if I'm, say, modeling at midnight, I can always go to a 24-hour CVS and buy more. I mean, not that I do that a lot, but you never know. So it's nice to be able to get it.
See, I use the Airbrush Cleaner that Gil has on his channel. Like, if you go to his channel and look up the Airbrush Cleaner stuff, it works really, really good. For the acrylic stuff, enamels, no, it's not going to work very well. But
I try to lean away from non-acrylic paint, but I mean, every once in a while, I have brands that pop up that are lacquer based or something, and I'll go with it. But I just like acrylic. It doesn't destroy your nose. And I still wear like a little respirator when I do a lot of painting out here. It's not a lot of airflow, but I just prefer to stick acrylic if I can. So that's good to know. I'll have to check it out.
There's, if you look it up, there's some interesting videos out there.
Nice.
Yeah. See, people know Jesus Juice works awesome. Yeah.
I'll have to check it out to pick some up.
What other than Tamiya, what other types of paint do you use? Isn't it just, and you just said it's mostly acrylic, right?
I typically stay with acrylic, if I can. But I will use a lot of the Mr. Hobby stuff, the Mr. Color. I do like that. That's I think it's lacquer based if I remember correctly, but it's great paint. Like, it really airbrushes well. So I'll use that a lot of time, and I've got a whole little contingent of paint, from Mr. Color. I'll also use from time to time, I'll use Mission Models. I like Mission Model paint. I know Joe had some trouble with it, I think, but I haven't had too many troubles with it. So
and that stuff, it's you kind of hear that you either get it to work or you're fighting it the whole time. There's not an in between.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I found, actually, because at first when I picked it up, I thought, oh well, hey, I'll just try to use some isopropyl on it, see if that works. It worked for like one or two of them, and then it just did not work for the rest of them. I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So for a while, I kind of stayed away, and then I actually just ended up throwing some Vallejo thinner and flow improver into some Mission Models, and it worked fine. So I said, all right, I'll just stick with that and see what happens. And so far, so good. I've also been using a lot of the Model Air by Vallejo. I use a lot of that stuff. Yeah. What else? What else? Of course, there's always the I don't know if they make a lot of this anymore, but it's the aqueous hobby color. I use that quite a lot as well. And for like metallizing stuff, I do have some of the old metallizer paints by Model Masters, which I do like, but I've actually kind of tried to do more with Alclad because Alclad seems to be a pretty beastie metal color. It's much more durable, I find. So I'll go with that. And then I just started experimenting with MRP with their acrylic stuff. And I've heard actually their lacquer-based stuff is excellent. So I'd like to try that at some point as well. But this was cheap online. I needed some sea blue, so I just grabbed it and I tried it out and I liked it. So it's kind of the main paint that I end up using.
No, that's really cool, and that's not anything near each other.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being in California, I'm shocked you don't try Wicked since you have the Createx store there.
I'm not familiar with that, so I might now that you mention it, but I haven't actually used that before.
No, it's pretty. I think it's based out of California, Southern California. You know, and then there's the Vallejo Model Color or Pro Acryl. I have it there. I guess one of the hobby shops up by Portland is starting to get that Pro Acryl stuff. So I might be taking like an hour trip north here pretty soon.
Yeah, I haven't really heard of that. Most of the stuff that we have around here is usually Tamiya. I have a bottle of Tamiya somewhere around here. Yeah, Tamiya. We get a lot of Tamiya. A small amount of Mr. Color stuff. Brookhurst has mission models, but no other hobby store in the area has that. And then no one I found has acrylic MRP. One of my favorite hobby stores is right down the street. It's called Military Hobbies, and I've been going there since I was a little kid with my uncle. But they have a full range of the lacquer-based MRP stuff. So I've been meaning to go in and try it. It's just kind of pricey. So usually, instead of spending $8 on a vial of paint, I'll go grab this off like Sprue Brothers for like $3-4. And I very rarely use it anyway. But it's nice to know I have it, kind of deal,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy at the end of the day. What airbrushes are you using?
My main airbrush is the Grex TG3. Let me grab it here. It's the Grex TG3, and I picked this up because I wanted to try a trigger style of airbrush. It fits better in the hand. It just feels more comfortable. So I typically use my Grex. I also have an older Iwata HPC, and I think they don't make the HPC. They make the HPCS nowadays, and this one needs kind of refurbishment. So if anybody knows if the HPCS parts work in the HPC, then let me know, because I'd like to go ahead and refurbish this one and get it out working again. Because I'll use this for like primers and stuff, and then I'll end up using this for detail stuff. Somewhere around here, I've got an old Aztec Ace, was it 770? Or Testors. Testors made an airbrush back in the day. I don't remember if they make that anymore, but I have that somewhere. But that just kind of just died on me years and years and years ago before I got the HPC. So those are kind of the main ones.
That's really cool. I've always kind of wanted to try a pistol grip one because I think my son would be better with that. Because he has a hard time pushing the thing down, pulling it back. It's just like a mechanical thing, right?
Oh yeah. And that's one of the reasons I went away from the push down, pull back type thing, because years ago I sliced through my my FTP tendon in my pinky, so it doesn't like to do a lot of gripping. And the way this kind of works is just you're kind of cramped on the airbrush. So with this one, it just feels way more comfortable. So it fits my hand a lot better. That's kind of what made me want to try the pistol grip.
No, I mean, it's really cool how just, and those, I mean, Grex isn't really that expensive, right? It's a fairly entry level airbrush, right?
Yeah, I didn't think it was too much. A buddy of mine at work actually has one of the side siphon feed Grex, and he loved it. And he kind of said, "Hey, you should check it out," because he knew my problem with gripping my airbrush after a long period of time. My hand kind of cramps up. So he's like, "You ought to try the trigger style." And I think I picked this one off of Amazon. There's only one shop that I know of in the area that I've at least frequented that's Brookhurst that has Grex and Grex parts. So I felt pretty secure that if anything breaks, I can go down there and say, "Hey, do you guys have this part or this part?" But I got the whole brush on Amazon with like a bundle deal. So I got the I think 3 millimeter needle and nozzle, and I also picked up a 2 millimeter nozzle as well. And I actually just use the 2 millimeter in this one most of the time. So I don't know how much I paid. I don't think it was too bad though. I want to say it was around 150, maybe.
I mean, even the other airbrush,
170.
I mean, it's a great entry level airbrush too, just to see what you can do with them, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. This one I actually bought this for $80 from a friend back in, I want to say 2003. And I used it up until I purchased this one. I want to say I got this one in like 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. So yeah, I mean, I loved my Iwata. It was a really nice airbrush, and I came up from a single action Badger. So being able to kind of go with something that was dual action, gravity feed, I could really get some very nice precise lines with it. So I don't have the most stable of hands, but I can do okay with it. So that's all that matters. It works for me, then I'm happy with it,
No, I like, for me, I do the Posh H. Like,
Oh yeah.
I've got a bunch of Badger stuff too over the years. But if I have a problem spraying, because I use a bunch of this stuff, the folk art stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If I can't get this to go through the Badger, it will always go through the Posh H.
Right. I think a buddy of mine had that one as well, and he loved it. He loved it. It was, I think, a siphon feed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a cool little airbrush for the all around stuff. Like I used to work at a furniture place, and that's how I got introduced to that airbrush, is because that's how they'd spray the fabric foam or the glue.
Oh yeah.
They were using that airbrush. Like, it will shoot glue through it. That's how that's how durable
that's a tank. It's a tank of an airbrush.
Yeah. So like
Nice.
I said, that's why I bought one. Like, when I started like getting somewhat into the hobby, that's why I bought it, because I knew it would work.
Yeah, and that's one thing I find is there's a lot of really high-end stuff out there, and that would be great to have. But I mean, if I can get a model built and I like how it turns out, and I don't have to spend like $500-$600 on an airbrush, I'm fine with that. If it works and it gets the job done and it's reliable, I'm good. I don't need the fanciest equipment out there. As long as it has a nice feel and it does what I need to do, sign me up.
Yeah. So we're not very far into. We're almost the end of January. So what was your New Year's resolution for the hobby? What are you going to try to improve on?
I would like to. You know what? I was thinking about that, and I'd like to improve on LED work. I'd like to do a lot more with LEDs. I've got a couple of model. I haven't built much really this month. Family stuff is kind of tapered off a little bit, but it's still kind of hectic. So I haven't had a chance to really sit down on the bench and do something, but I do have some plans, and they do involve like LEDs. They involve, power sources of some sort. I've got a lot of Star Trek kits I've been kind of looking at and kind of drooling over that I have in the stash that I would love to try to light. I don't know if I've got the skills to do some of these kits and light them up, but it would be awesome if I could. So that's kind of where I'm heading with my New Year's resolution for modeling. I'd like to work more in LEDs. So whether they make it on the channel, though, I may completely botch it. So I was like, all right, well, it's a failed video series, but you never know. I like to also show when I make little mistakes so people know that, hey, we all make mistakes. Just do it and move on, or scrap it and start over, It's all about having fun anyway. But that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get some LEDs going.
No, that's really cool. And that's such a hard thing to learn, especially with soldering. And
yeah, I still don't really know how to solder exactly. I've seen to make things work, but they're probably not very clean. So, hey, if it turns on, I'm good.
I could show you a Deep Space Nine space station that I had to like rip all the LED stuff out because I kept poking the soldering iron through the plastic.
I could relate to that. Yeah, I did a little couple of issues when I was building my ATST. I was just putting 2 LEDs in there. I was like, oh, this would be easy. But yeah, I made a couple of whoops. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, there you go. There's a burn on the inside of the cockpit. Oh well, you're not going to see it, but still it's there. So I could see how that could happen. Yeah.
No, I mean it's absolutely crazy how integral that is.
Yeah.
So what's some of the stuff coming up on your channel?
Okay, well, I've actually been I've been watching channels and they've been doing the Pearl Harbor group build, and I have really wanted to get into that. And I actually finally went ahead and I found a kit that I wanted to build. You know how you look through your stash and you're like, well, I could build that, I could build that. I don't really know. And I've always wanted to build a Catalina. So the video isn't out yet, but I picked up this. I don't know if you can see with the glare and all that, but I picked up a PBY Catalina. It's the -5, and it's hopefully going to be Pearl Harbor group build subject. So I want to actually do a water base for this, like I did with my A6M float plane I did a couple years back. So that's kind of coming up. And I also want to maybe do something with these engines. I have an idea. I might want to see if I can power them, but we'll see. We'll see if I can get it done. So I don't know much about the kit. I know it's an older kit. I think it's like 1993 or so. It looks good though. Like this recessed panel lines. It looks like it's going to be nicely detailed on the outside. Not much interior detail, but I don't know how much you're going to see anyway through the different openings, cockpit and the front nose, and then the side bubbles as well. I don't know how much you're going to see, but could be nice little scratch building, little opportunity. So I do like my scratch building, so I might be able to add in some details there. And then if I can, I've got a couple of ideas, but I used this clear cast resin made by, I think, a company called Art and Glow, and I used it for my A6M back when I was doing that for the All at Sea group build over there on Facebook. I think it was the group build group on Facebook. So I was building this A6M, and I went ahead and I did this nice little water base. It's actually at work, or I'd bring it out and show you guys. But it was a kind of a rough, choppy sea base. And I actually got a video idea off of YouTube. I was like, I want to try that. So I picked up this clear cast resin. I dyed it with a couple of drops of, I think, clear blue. I want to say by Tamiya. And just kind of made this choppy water base, and then just kind of fit the A6M down into it, and then added some clear medium around different areas to have just some splashes, and just had a kind of played around and had fun with it. And I want to try it again. So I'm hoping to do something similar with the PBY, but do something on a smaller scale. So because the base I have is actually bigger than the airplane when I was building the A6M. So with the PBY, I want to go a little bit smaller. So it has a smaller shelf profile, so I can put it at work on my file cabinet. So that's kind of my goal with that. And if I can, I'd really like to do something with electronics on it. So we'll see. We'll see if I can pull it off, So that's the thing. And I'm actually, the video is ready to go. I just got to render it and do a last couple minute changes on it. So I'm hoping to get that on Monday. So sneak peek for everybody. That hopefully will be out next week, so I can finally crank into that.
No, that's cool. Is that the only thing you're gonna try to do this year? Because I mean, your builds on YouTube tend to take.
Yeah, they do take a while. It's funny because for the 12 sprues, I sit down on the bench and I just build and build and build, and I try to get one video done per every kit that I build, and I try to do it within, if I can muster it, within 24 hours. So that may not be all back to back. That might be 6 hours here, 3 hours here, 5 hours here. So it could add up, but I'm trying to do it within 24 hours for those builds. With my other more typical builds, I like to do it episodically. So I'll sit down and I'll just say, I'm going to build the cockpit today, or I'm going to work on the seams on the wing today, and I'll record it and I'll work on it, and I'll show people my process with it, and then I just put out a video. So it could be sometimes I usually do 1 episode a week, and it could last for up to, I think my longest one was like 15 weeks with just building every little bit every week, and then I'd make the video and I'd put it out the following week. So it usually can be a little drawn out. Hopefully that's okay. But it's just how I tend to build. So this one, I think the group build ends on D-Day. So I'm going to have to try to gauge my time so I can finish it within the allotted amount. I mean, it probably wouldn't be a big deal if I went over, but I like to try to give myself a goal and stick within that goal if I can. So that would probably take, I'm hoping, maybe 10 weeks. That's a rough estimate, maybe 10 weeks or so to get that wrapped up with like an episode a week. I'll have to relearn some stuff though, because I forgot how to work with the resin. So I'll have to watch a couple of videos and then just experiment and try some new things. But other than that, I also have, I don't know, I have kind of a hankering to build a helicopter. And I know Hobby Link International is doing a group build for the helicopter group build. I think it goes all year. So I would really love to build a Hind. Those Russian helicopters, most of the Russian aircraft and helicopters and tanks, they just look mean. Like they may not have been great necessarily in certain areas, but they just look like they're going to mess you up. So I've always liked the Russian stuff, and I've always wanted to build a Hind. And I was talking to Joe, and he's like, "Dude, you should totally build one." It's like, well, I don't have one in the stash, so I'm kind of looking around. I know Zvezda has one. There's a couple other kits I think out there too. So I don't know. That's kind of on the horizon. I'm hoping if I can get a helicopter, a Hind D, I might throw that in there for the helicopter group build as well.
No, I mean that's cool because I think I'm gonna try to do. I've got probably 6 to 10 different types of helicopters in my stash.
Oh,
So
nice.
I was actually thinking about participating in that particular group build too.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Especially since I got that evergreen canopy glue.
Oh yeah.
It works so well, so I'm gonna try. That's my plan. I'm gonna try to do a helicopter this year, but
Nice.
you know,
I mean, it's isn't that the way it is? You know, you have some ideas, you have some plans, and you sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. You know, but I would also like to do, aside from the group builds, I'd also want to do a couple of just personal builds as well. And so that I really want to finish the Millennium Falcon, the Lando Falcon. I got to finish this guy. I really do. So that's going to pop back up on sci-fi. And I've got a couple of other ideas for sci-fi. It's not my biggest draw on my channel. Usually, I mean, I get maybe half the views on a sci-fi build than I get on a military build. But I still like the sci-fi stuff, and there's still a small audience out there that watches my channel and enjoys it too. So, you know, I want to make sure that everyone has a good time. So I wanted to try to get back more into sci-fi, and I've got a couple of ideas. I picked up, you mentioned 3D printing. I picked up a couple of things that are 3D printed, and I don't know, I have a hankering to build them. One is, I don't have it with me, but it's actually from The Mandalorian. And it's the armorer's hammer that she uses to forge, you know, Beskar and all that stuff. Not to get too nerdy or anything, but I absolutely love the idea of being able to make props. So I would love to be able to make the armorer's hammer. I know the girlfriend was talking about it. She wanted to actually do a little cosplay because she's like me. She loves Star Wars and she really enjoys. She does more figure painting, not really scale modeling. But she was like, yeah, I'd really like to, you know, dress up. You know, there's the Star Wars celebrations coming up and this year, and we have tickets to it. And she's like, I want to see if I can't, you know, go with something. And so like, all right, well, maybe I can make the armorer's hammer. If you can come up with the rest of the costume, I'll at least make the props. So that's kind of something I'd like to do. I also have a helmet that was 3D printed as well for a shore trooper. And I have no idea how to work with 3D printed stuff really. But I know it takes a lot of priming, a lot of sanding, priming, sanding, priming, sanding. So I know it's got a lot of stuff I need to take care of. And it's an older kit. I just have it sitting in the stash. Then I have something from Babylon 5 I'd love to work on, and the replica of the PPG pistol. And I talked to Brian, and I'm hoping to do a cast of it so I can make multiple PPGs, and I can kind of mess around with them and kind of experiment and try different things, and maybe make one that actually comes apart in certain ways. I don't know how many people followed Babylon 5 back in the day, but there's a little PPG. It looks like an old revolver, like a 38 revolver. And it's awesome looking. I've always liked the look of it, you know, so it'd be cool to try to build one.
No, I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about 3D printed stuff, right? I mean, the possibilities are endless. Like you can go in so many different directions, and then it can also do stuff in the house.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think about that, but like when I had an Xbox 360, my son broke both the joysticks, the thumbsticks.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I just printed out 2 new ones and popped them in there, and it worked fine. It still wasn't exactly like the other one, but it worked. you know?
Yeah, and if it works, it works, right? I mean, it's cool that
Yeah.
you make it yourself. And that's something that I am interested in getting into because I like making things, you know. So if I could make my own parts, that's kind of why I got the stencil cutter because I figured I could make my own masks. Um, and specifically for the Lando Falcon, that I actually wanted to make a base for it, and I wanted to have multiple switches, and I wanted to label each switch so that I knew what they would do. But I wanted to label it in Airbrush, which is that that Star Wars font that you always see on everything Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can't hand paint that. I don't think I've got the steady hand for that. It's like, oh, I should just make a mask for it. So it's kind of pushed me to get myself a vinyl cutter, and I can use that for canopies and for my own markings. If I wanted to, airbrush, national markings on an aircraft, I don't have to go out and buy one. I just find a file and mess with it a bit and print it or cut it, I guess, as it actually is. So I would love to get some 3D printing going. I really would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what 3D printer parts you have, but it's kind of cool how if it's resin, you can use this to make it work. And if it's PLA, you use this and you can make it work.
I think these are PLA, if I'm not mistaken. The short trooper helmet, I think, is PLA, and I'm pretty sure the hammer as well is PLA. The PPG is resin, but it's a cast resin. I don't think it was 3D printed. It was cast. So, and that got warped, which is why I was talking to Brian about it, and I said I kind of want to redo it, so I can actually make it not warped. So
There you go.
I did promise him that I would send him one too. So if I can make it work, I'm going to send a copy over to BG.
Nice. No, that's cool. No, really cool. So we've hit about that hour mark. Did you have any questions for me?
Actually, I was going to ask you more about 3D printing, as I know that, yeah, you have a lot of 3D printing stuff. And how does a person get started in 3D printing? And you probably got that question before, but I'm just kind of curious, like, what's the price point? What's the deal with the resin as opposed to PLA, all that stuff. So if you could throw some knowledge at me, that'd be great.
So let's talk about the PLA side because you don't want any advice from me on resin.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure that side out. I need to take like a weekend and sit right here with the computer and like figure it all out.
Right.
But,
yeah.
And that's some of the hard stuff. Like it's a lot of trial and error. And that's like I got the first bottle and I got a couple things to print out towards the end. So we're gonna try to print out like I have a Spider-Man figure that's it'll probably be about a foot tall, I think, or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I got that to print out on the resin. And for me, the resin side is so much more messy. Like,
oh, okay.
And that's kind of like, I mean, you have to have a dedicated workbench spot for that because you have to like put in an isopropyl. It's not just push print and magic happens and at least the resin side, PLA side. So I've pretty much figured out the PLA side. And I'm not using any of the expensive stuff. I usually gravitate towards like the $10 rolls. I mean, you can go from like $8 to like $50 a roll.
Oh, okay.
And there's a difference in the PLA. Some work better than others. Sometimes the cheaper stuff you can get to work better than the more expensive stuff. You just have to work with the settings, right?
Okay.
But a lot of that is just going through and figuring out what settings do what. If I adjust this, I have to adjust this also so the print will come out right.
Right.
Because, I mean, okay, so this is the Hulkbuster that I'm printing out now, right?
Nice, yeah.
And it looks awesome, right?
Yeah.
But then you have, I'll use this arm. But then you get stuff like this, right? Where the hand doesn't quite print out right.
Oh, I see.
Like, I mean, it's spaghetti because one of the supports failed or something. I wasn't here when it got done, but Like you get all the texture lines. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can make that out.
Yeah, I can see in there. Yeah.
But all that stuff is fixable. So I don't generally throw out prints unless they like totally mangle or they don't print out all the way, and like and this is a big one for me. Like I like printing stuff out a little bit bigger. So this is the other half of the figure. Well, this is the size it was supposed to be. You know, so, and a lot of times you got to learn how to level the beds, especially on the resin stuff.
Okay.
There's all kinds of videos on YouTube, and you kind of just you watch a couple and you kind of see where the middle ground is. That's generally what I've done. PLA, you're probably looking at spending somewhere between 100 and 300 for a printer now.
Okay.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's come down quite a bit since I first looked at them.
So that's the second PLA printer I've bought. The first one I spent like almost $600 for, and that was 5 years ago.
Jeez.
And the second one I paid $200, but I got all kinds of stuff, add-ons. And you know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that the prices have dropped a little bit too. Because that was a big thing. It's like I don't want to spend a ton of money yet. You know, if I'm going to buy something, I want it to be, you know, a good investment and last a long time. You know, as opposed to buying something that breaks or is outclassed in like a month. You know.
Well, and here's the other thing. Even on the PLA side, you can spend up to $1,000 still on a printer.
Sure.
But like, do you watch Tested at all?
I have, yeah. I've watched it before, yeah.
So do you remember Frank Ippolito on that?
Name sounds familiar, but
the guy that made all the like couple years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you go on and look in his shop, because they have certain videos up of his shop, he has like a 3-foot by 2-foot print bed, but it looks like a CNC machine. Whoa. I'm sure that printer was like $4,000.
Oh, okay.
And it's probably like 2 now, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but he's doing stuff for like movies, and you know, if you can get it to print out all in one piece, it's, you know, instead of doing multiple.
Oh, sure. I think I was watching I think Aztec Dummy last evening when I was eating dinner, and he was doing some 3D printed I think they were resin printed figures from the movie Sucker Punch. And I was like, man, how does that work? Like, how can you get something that fine and that carefully printed? And it looked fantastic. So I don't know what setup he has, but I know it was pretty impressive. And it's like, man, I really got to get on this 3D printing thing. I would love to make some things you just can't buy.
And see, the resin side of it's actually set up on light and 2K and 4K resolution, so you get better detail.
Oh, sure.
Like if I printed this out in resin, this would look so much better. But I wanted a bigger version, so I printed it out on the PLA.
Right.
Because I only have those build plates are what, 2 inches by probably 10 inches long. So like this wouldn't print out on that.
No.
This size would. I could get a War Machine or Hulkbuster this size.
Right.
No problem at all.
Huh. Interesting.
So the cleanup side of it, and we can go over that real quick too if you want.
Sure.
Now, see, the settings on this, and you'll be able to tell, like when you look at the PLA thing, if you can see like it kind of looks like spaghetti, right? When you put 2 pieces of spaghetti together, you get that round, and then there's the point, and then you start the other round, right?
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to take like a surface compound or something and fill in that line and then sand it all down
Mm-hmm.
so it's flat, right?
Okay.
Because otherwise you're going to get that texture when you put the filler primer on, and you're going to do that probably a couple times. Like
Okay.
I've seen some people take, what do they call it? Wood putty. Like when you're
Okay.
filling in holes on plywood and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That stuff. Like it's not super expensive, but I've seen people use that and sand it all down and then see where you're at. Like I have, like, if you look back on my channel, there's the Terminator metal skull.
Mm-hmm.
I probably spent probably a month sanding that head down.
Jeez.
Like, and I'm not even kidding, because like, it's crazy. But
Wow.
I figured out how to get the settings so I don't have to spend that much work.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, because on the Shore Trooper helmet, it's got that striation effect. It's that little hills and peaks and valleys. And I was looking at that and it's like, well, what do I do with this? And so I went out and I picked up some spray fillable primer. And I was like, well, maybe I could just fill it and sand it and just keep doing that. But I don't know how effective that's going to be, because some of these, I don't know,
Well,
there's some areas that need to be really worked on.
the problem with the filler primer is, like, it'll work great for that over like 6 coats.
Yeah.
But then the little bitty details that you want are going to vanish. And that's what you don't want. So you gotta kind of have to take like a section, like the forehead piece, and just work on that, and then go to the next piece, and then the next piece.
Okay, so don't even assemble it yet.
I tackled it, so
that makes sense. Yeah, because right now it's just in. Let me see if I can grab it. I mean, it's just in, it's just in sections and pieces right now. There are some areas that are kind of detailed, so I don't want to lose that. So yeah, I got to do something with it. But I've had it for years and I've always wanted to build it. I just never have, because it's a little bit intimidating,
Oh, absolutely. And that's the cool thing about 3D printing, is it can be tedious or it can be a lot of fun, just depending on, how much work you want to put into it, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, the hammer that I have for the armor, it's got those lines in it, but it's not as prominent as this helmet here. So I think that'll be a little bit easier. And that doesn't have a lot of detail on the actual haft of the hammer itself. So I think it'll be okay. But also, what do you use to bond for PLA? Like, if you want to, because it's in 3 sections. It's the head, it's the center section of the hammer, and then it's the bottom of the handle itself. So it comes in 3 sections. So how do you glue that together? Like, is there several glue or something?
You do cosplay, right? Do you have contact cement?
I do not, no, but I've heard that works well for like foam products, stuff like that.
That's what I used to do.
Okay.
I've like this guy, right? Because I don't need, that great of a bond. I'll use stuff like this.
Oh, okay.
Because I can glue it together, set it for like 30 seconds, and then walk away for like 2 hours and come back and then put the next piece on. And then.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't picked up any contact cement yet, or I haven't got super glue and I've got all that stuff, but I haven't gone the other routes
yet. When you look at some of the foam, how they'll glue one side, put glue on the other, and then let it set for a little bit, and then when you put it together, you have you're not getting that apart unless you have a hammer.
Yeah, yeah.
It works just the same way with PLA. You don't have to, and you want to make sure you don't use very much. So you want to make sure it's, you don't
on the context of
create a gap, right, that you have to deal with after it's simple.
Right. Okay. All right. Any particular brand of contact cement that you recommend?
I only know of the dab stuff.
Okay.
the dab. I
Yeah.
buy a lot of my stuff from Walmart, so that's the brand they have. But I think there's another one that says contact cement. But I've even used just regular super glue. Like,
Yeah.
but the Bond, like, I don't like you like wheeling it around and stuff. It will, I mean, it is plastic, right? So it has that
Yeah.
tendency to hold.
I would hope that it wouldn't be, flung around. It's very light because it's all hollow on the inside, so it's super light. So I'm hoping that it just won't take a lot of glue to get it together. But yeah, I'll have to check that contact cement out. I was just at Walmart last night. I should have looked. Didn't know.
No, I mean it's really super cool. Yeah, what's the other one that I use? Like I used this stuff. I don't know if you've watched my channel a long time, but they have this JB Weld.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So here's I use that to do the base for the Warlord Titan. And that's, I mean, I'm shaking it pretty good, and it's not going anywhere. I mean, this stuff will probably move, but the base, it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, solid.
And even this is, 3D printed.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Like, I mean,
oh, I see it. Yeah.
And this is primed and painted, like, and that's an area that I don't have to worry about. But then you look at areas like that, and you can't see the striations because I did it in such fine detail.
Sure, yeah. And that was just basically from the printing, like high quality printing?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
like even on the Iron Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's, I mean, you can kind of see the lines in it, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Here. See how you can see all the lines?
Yeah.
The filler primer will take that out.
Okay. So without losing the rest of the detail, there's just a couple of passes of filler primer, and that'll take care of that.
Sometimes it'll take it out just on the first one.
Oh, okay. That'd be nice.
So sometimes, not always, but sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Jeez. We live in a very interesting time.
I've heard like other people say this is like the golden area because you have 3D printing, you have mold manufacturing, you can duplicate parts, you can, like, the possibilities are absolutely endless at this point.
Yeah. Well, I know I cast a little bit of resin when I was one of my very first video series with Joe. We built the Tamiya A6M3, and we ended up just kind of building the way we wanted to, and then we just kind of compared it. That's where I think the very first Ben Builds with Joe Builds with Ben episode came from. And I just didn't like the instrument panel. I thought there's no detail on this, so I ended up grabbing a Hasegawa kit, and then I just made a mold of that using some just like latex of some sort, and then I cast it in resin and stuck it in there. It looked great. So I thought, wow, I just made my own instrument panel. That's the first time I ever did anything like that before. So we do have a lot of tech at our disposal nowadays we didn't have back in a few years ago even. So that's pretty cool. It's a good time to be a modeler.
And even if you do like the cosplay stuff, even the 3D printing, and all the skills that we have work great in that hobby too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I've basically made props before for my buddy and also for my girlfriend as well. She does a Captain Carter cosplay. Well, Captain America, if it was Captain Carter before Captain Carter was a thing. But she needed basically the way to put the shield on her back, and we kind of got our heads together, and I came up with an idea, and I just fabricated something for her, and we just attached it on to what came on the shield already, and then she could walk around the convention with the shield on her back, in full cosplay without having to worry about carrying this giant shield around. So it's just, I haven't done much of my own cosplay, but I've always helped other people, make things or paint things. So I would like to do some stuff for myself, and that's kind of why I got the Short Trooper, because I've always liked the look of the Short Trooper from Rogue One. So I was like, if I can do a Short Trooper helmet, that'd be pretty cool for a display. And you never know, I might wear it to a convention one day.
See,
As Charlie pointed out, yeah, it's my face reveal at 10,000 subscribers. I'll do that.
yeah, no doubt, huh?
Yeah.
No, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, it's and even with the cosplay stuff, because like I'm kind of curious to see if I could get a transformer to work.
Oh, yeah.
Just the helmet I would
Sure.
3D print the helmet. I don't think I could and then 3D print small details to go on it,
Yeah.
like the logos or the emblems and whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Any particular transformer you were looking at, or just kind of whatever you could get?
I've seen an Optimus Prime as cosplay. I've seen a Soundwave, and I've seen a
Ooh.
Megatron.
Nice.
Those are the only three I've seen pictures of, anyway.
Yeah. I'd go Starscream. Starscream for the win.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that would be another easy one. But
Yeah.
I'll probably do Optimus Prime first, though, because that's probably going to be the easiest.
Yeah, and plus it's leader of the Autobots. I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't get much better than that.
and I already know there's a file, so I can have a helmet. That's the important part.
I've been looking at doing I think it's from Iron Man 2. It's that helmet, that color scheme. I don't know what mark that is, like Mark 5 or Mark 4 or something like that. But I've always wanted to, if I could get into 3D printing, I'd want to 3D print the Iron Man, that particular version. So Mark 4 or whatever helmet with the silver and the red instead of the gold and the red. That would be kind of cool. So I've seen some on Etsy that come to you already made, and they actually open up and then they close around your face. So that would be kind of cool. That's years down the line, though. I have a feeling, because I gotta walk before I can run.
But see, I have an extremely large head, so it would probably come to me, and I'd spend like $300-400, and then I couldn't put it on.
Oh.
That would be the frustrating part for me.
Yeah. I picked up a couple of those Black Series Star Wars helmets from Disney, or for Hasbro, I guess. But
Yeah.
some of them they fit fine. Other ones, nope. The Boba Fett one, I cannot get my head in that helmet if I tried. I'd have to remove all the internal basically just to get it in there. So, but then again, like the Stormtrooper, the old school Stormtrooper, I could fit in that one fine. So you never know. But still, if I can make my own, saving a little bit of money in the long run, I guess. So it'd be fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions for me?
No, not that I can think of. That was my big thing. Is I know you're big into 3D printing. It's like I got to ask the master what he does so I can figure out. Yeah.
Hey! Now, you need to knock that off. I'm far from being a master. I mean, on the PLA side, I will say I've figured it out, and people have contacted me for help, and I've been able to help them, at least give them an idea to go to.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just trial and error.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, it's and each one, and I use Cura. There's another one called like Simplified 3D or something like that, but you have to pay for that.
Oh, okay.
Program. And I just, I just don't have the extra money for that. The broke modeler society right here, broke because I model, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what I do, I can get to work, and that's all that matters. Here, as soon as the weather warms up, if it ever does.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna get the resin printer back out and going, but
nice.
It's got to be warmer than like 40 degrees outside.
I can imagine. Yeah. Luckily, down in SoCal, we don't really have days that are extremely cold, but we do have some rainy days from time to time, and then sometimes it just gets too hot. To be honest, I mean, again, I live in a pretty nice temperate area, so I'm under no illusions that it's horrible weather here, because no, we have great weather. But every once in a while, you still run into trouble. I know Joe's even talking about it. He had a gloss clear coat, and it just orange peeled on him. I've had it where paint is atomized before it even hits the model. It just basically dusts it instead. So I got to kind of adjust my mixture. So weather does play a little deal in it for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually going to try to end this. I do have
Okay.
some other things going on today.
Sure. Yeah. Again, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to make this work. And get you on and have the great conversation that we had.
Yeah, for sure.
But I will talk to you in a couple minutes, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Ben.
Bye.
Okay. So the end of this. Yeah, thanks, Jamie. you gotta email me, dude. I gotta get you a time slot in for one of these. But I'm gonna help a guy out. Hobby Barn has started a Facebook page, and I know he sent me a Facebook request, but he's on Facebook now. Pretty cool guy. But like I said, that's one of the things I wanted to plug at the end of this. And then the other is I'm going to have an update video on the Warlord Titan, but I got to get some stencils and stuff. So that video is coming up. But I'm really glad we were able to get Ben on. He's hella talented. If you're not subscribed to his channel, you need to go over and at least check it out. There's really good content over there. And him and Mad Production Genius. I got to write this stuff down before I start the interview sometimes. But they do really great work, and Ben's Christmas series, it's really great stuff. So hopefully you all learned something about Ben like I did today, and I will see you guys next week. I think Mark Dunmar is next, UK guy. So we're going to learn something about the UK next week, hopefully. But see you guys later. Bye.